Welcome to Insightly. I'm Melissa McGinn.
And I'm Jordan Walker. We're your hosts on a mission to empower executives and business leaders with the knowledge they need to turn data into a driving force for innovation. Join us every episode as we share real-world case studies and provide practical tips to unlock the full potential of your business through data and analytics.
So if you're ready to transform your relationship with data, hit that subscribe button, because in the world of business, insight is power. Okay, I want to start by telling you a story. And everyone, welcome to the podcast. You know, we talk about data, and I don't want to bore you with all the recap because
Listen to a previous
listen
episode.
to one of our episodes. You'll know what we talk about, data stuff. Okay, I want to tell you a story.
Okay, tell me.
So we talk a lot about the middle market. So this is about a mid-sized company, specifically an auto parts manufacturer.
Okay.
They do about $50 million in revenue. So
Decent.
sizable
Yeah,
company.
great.
They decided, AI would really enhance their productivity, specifically on predictive maintenance.
Ooh, okay.
So when do cars typically need servicing? What types of servicing? Like starting to slice and dice by model, by year, all kinds of cool stuff.
Okay.
They invested $200,000
Ooh,
into this AI system that allows them to predict maintenance needs. I think it's for cars, but then also for their own internal equipment.
Okay.
And they thought, this is going to be amazing. We're going to know exactly, we're stay on top of the maintenance. We'll probably not have to hire. Maybe they have someone that I think runs a maintenance schedule and does all that stuff. So, and, to reduce the major downtime that their equipment has.
Yeah.
So then what happened was 6 months after implementing this system, which, $200,000, big, decent chunk of change, they started realizing that the AI was making worse predictions than what they had been seeing previously it was just humans doing it.
Okay.
This is what they found out when they kind of dug into it. So each time there was a shift change, they realized that each shift was logging the maintenance issues differently.
Okay.
The critical sensor data was being recorded in 3 different units of measurement. 40% of maintenance logs were missing key information, and equipment IDs weren't standardized.
Okay, can we stop for a hot second? Because I'm over here trying not to giggle.
Let it out.
This is exactly like the same thing that we hear when it's like, I want to use my CRM system, but the labels aren't being used the same way. Half the profiles aren't filled out correctly.
Yes.
So what you're telling me is this exists everywhere.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
So this is just not a CRM. It's just a different kind of a system.
Right.
So when I read that, I just say, okay, the data input.
Data cleanliness.
Yeah, the input is bad. The units of measurement, there's no standard reporting on that.
Which that one actually kind of boggles my mind just a little bit.
Which, how are they doing that before?
Right. Yeah. What? Okay.
I don't know.
There's obviously more questions from an operational standpoint to ask.
And that's not our realm, but let's just say there's issues there. So basically, incomplete data, messy data, and just inconsistencies and lack of standardization. So they ended up pausing the AI system or the further implementation of it. And they had to spend an entire year fixing some of the foundational pieces.
Mm-hmm.
But what they found was actually the super interesting part is that they cleaned the data and they standardized across different shifts and systems and now reduced their downtime by 15%.
Because they standardized it?
Because they standardized it and cleaned it up.
Yeah.
And so now, they could see patterns and start to pull out trends of the maintenance. But they weren't using AI when they experienced 15% of that downtime or when they saw the reduction of the downtime.
So the practice of going through and really getting closer to the foundational data alone helped them reduce 15%.
But they thought that AI, implementing the AI tools would, far surpass that.
Yeah.
So what do we learn from this? Which is going to be the whole topic of this episode, is that AI is nothing without data. And AI is definitely not good without clean, good, useful data. And it's in the world where every new shiny object is something AI, this AI, I mean, I know we both use it. I'm not against it.
Mhm.
I'm for it because
But you should be a healthy skeptic of it right now.
right. Just the insane money that's being thrown towards it. It's not going to work if your data's not good. And what do you call it now if you tweeted? What do you
We're still saying Twitter.
we
Like,
X that. I tweeted, we're having the wrong conversation
yeah.
because middle market companies are still trying to pull 20 different spreadsheets together for one
Mhm.
monthly report that's being done manually.
Yeah.
Like, we need to be having a different conversation.
Well, it's the same thing that happens when any new bright tool hits the market and becomes more readily available to people and companies, right?
Yeah.
Like, we all want to hop on it quickly. If the talking points have been, oh, this can actually make things a lot more efficient for you, biz bam boom, just connect these things and you're going to be good to go. That is never the actual reality of any tool that ever hits the market like this, right?
Yeah.
Something that, like, within this example, we know that the data foundations were completely skipped. So obviously, if you're going through this, doing a good data hygiene audit is a good first step for any company at any size looking to explore AI as a tool within their company. Data hygiene is important. But the thing that stuck out to me when you were telling me the story is it kind of goes back to why the human element, regardless of AI, is still important. Because without the context around the data, so a tool isn't going to know to look for specific differences in data. Like, even if you wanted AI to help you skim a bunch of data to help clean it up, it still needs to know what to look for and what conditions to review before it changes it, right? You would do these like as a human too. You would look, if you had to go through and comb through all of these spreadsheets or systems or software, whatever, you would be looking for the inconsistencies and the conditions surrounding it before you made a recommendation on it should be this data label versus that one, right? The context and that connection to the data is so important in these processes that even just, and I mean, we probably aren't going to like this as much, but this is why, like, you also can't just say, hey, external team, here's my package, go for it. Because even an external team's not going to know all of those conditions.
100%.
You have to be close to it. You have to understand, like, okay, well, when does that maintenance trigger typically happen? And what does that user experience or that journey to make that decision take place? And then how do you update it from there?
Yeah. I think there's a world in the future where we talk about like training models or like training the AI. There's a world where that's possible. Like a human from the company can train AI on like a local model.
That's what you would want that person to do too, right? When AI and like ChatGPT like first came out, there was the whole conversation around like, oh, it's going to take our jobs, blah, blah, blah. But in a very simple example, I would much rather have someone who is skilled in web development train AI to develop code than me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, the specific knowledge around a certain topic where you're trying to make AI better is still, held in the humans right now. And I heard a quote that's like, AI is not going to take your job, but people that know how to use AI are going to take the jobs of people that don't or are not willing to adopt it, because this isn't a hype cycle. This isn't going away.
Right.
It's a shiny object right now where people are in the sense of like, let's just get on the bandwagon and do it before they're ready. But it's not going anywhere. It's not something that's going to be a fad.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, we are here with it now, but we're definitely still in that Wild West territory.
It's the wild freaking West out there.
Yeah, where you have the early adopters, right, that are really hopping on it for good or for worse, whatever. I'm glad that people are testing it out. I'm glad that people are asking questions about, like, how should we really be using this? Like, what are the ethics behind? Like, I'm glad for all of those conversations that are happening. We need them, but it's not going to go away. And also, newsflash, AI has actually been here for a while. Like, it's just now accessible.
It's democratized down to the individual person.
Yeah.
And I was even thinking, like, from a service standpoint, so anyone listening, tell me if this is a bad idea. Like, there needs to be almost like a service or consultants that do an AI readiness, because there's a lot of components. Like we had Tarek on the show and he was like talking about cyber.
Yeah.
Like that's a component, data's a component, IT,
Infrastructure,
systems, and that's a component. I mean, software, tech stack, there's a lot of different components. So it's almost like it would be more worth your 200 grand to go and have someone thoroughly audit everything and say, if you really want to implement AI at this level, here are the things that you need to do and fix. Spend the next year, and you might feel like, I think people are just scared to fall behind. And are scared of competition. But I can guarantee that, I mean, the Google and the Microsofts of the world is different, but more middle market, I can guarantee that if you spend that time and that money to do it right, you're going to be ahead of the curve.
I would agree. And I think it's good to have a healthy risk mindset when you're going into any kind of innovation like this within your company. You have to look at, okay, what are the outcomes that we're hoping to achieve? But instead of just launching into, well, let's just develop this as we go. This is a scenario where numbers are numbers until they're put into some sort of context. And if you're not giving the right direction or the strategy in it, you could be getting what looks like great insights back from a tool that have very little basis to what your real data is actually telling you, just because of the way that it was like manufactured to spit back to you.
Right.
And so I would agree that spending that 200K, give yourself a good 6 months to fully audit all of your data to understand what cleanliness needs to occur. Align that with the goals that you have on how you're wanting to use this, not only within the next year or so, but what's future state? What is your hope and dream if you could wave a magic wand? Because now's a really good time to be if you're auditing, that's a really good time to be exploring what that looks like. So then you can phase approach it. You can actually develop a roadmap that allows you to see, okay, we've audited. Now we need to spend the next 3 months cleaning all of this stuff up. Cool. We've already reduced downtime by 15%. This initial goal that we had now needs to be adjusted. So now you can be iterating as you go along instead of this is never going to be a stand it up and forget it and walk away. Do it right to stand it up. That way you have the opportunity to innovate further instead of working on Band-Aid fixes after it's launched.
Because to your point, it's evolving so quickly. What's happening right now, some of the things weren't even possible just in Q4 of 2024. It's changing so fast. So to even say that you're implementing AI or using AI, within your company, that's going to look different in 3 months, 6 months, a year. And so, I mean, everyone knows where we stand, but it's just so worth, especially in this day and age, it's so worth investing in the foundation.
Yes.
Because then that foundation allows you to build whatever house you want. This is an example that just came into my mind. So let's say on a house, you build a really solid foundation and you build a beautiful house. And then, 2 years later, the trim that you chose is radically out of style. And you want to change the trim or the fixings on the house. You can easily just do that. Because your house can withstand, the foundation can withstand that, and you can put the pretty new exterior. As opposed to having to literally knock the house down just to fix, the shiny, pretty parts of it. That's kind of how I imagine it to be. Is
Function
that there's
over
going to be
form.
Yes, there's going to be so many pretty things that will come that it's going to be hard to pedal backwards to, like you said, all the Band-Aids, take all the Band-Aids off to fix it. And at that point, it could be a very severe setback if it's in 5 years and you have to knock the house down.
Well, and something that comes to mind is I think we get hooked on looking for the software and the tools first. And that is how we end up, in this case, if it was, okay, we're going to invest $200,000 in an AI system, was the system the thing that we were making a decision against? Meaning, are we having demos on all these different systems? Are we interviewing teams on what their process is, blah, 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 blah. So then our focus is around, we are going to hire this group or whatever, and their system to then come in and do all of this, but we focused so much on the system that we didn't actually like focus on the whole reason why we were set to do this to begin with. Like, I don't know what the answer is for this particular story, but just historically, like thinking about any new tool that comes to market, a lot of times it's, okay, well, we've heard about it in some networking association. We've participated in webinars to learn more about it. We're hearing more of our peers become interested in it, like within our competitive spaces. So now we're becoming a lot more serious about it. We've got some visionaries in our leadership team that are like, yep, that's the direction we're going in. And they probably have a lot of really good ideas about it. But now it's been delegated down to, now you go figure out how we're going to make this happen. And historically speaking, whenever this occurs, we start looking at just the tool and the system that we're going to onboard. So it's like back in the day when everybody was talking about CRMs, you know, it's like, I'm going to look at HubSpot, I'm going to look at Salesforce, and those are probably the big two at the time, right? So I'm going to, or Cision or Oracle. Okay, so I've got these three. But am I asking why I'm going to use a CRM? Am I going to talk about how I need to use it for my sales, you know, development teams and whatnot? Once those kind of things got implemented, it took companies years to kind of like reverse course a little bit after they fully stood up these CRM systems to realize that incomplete data is still going into it. So they can't do all the things that they want to do anyway. That's why I was giggling when you were telling this story, because it's like, you know, we are focused on the system and the tool, and we're so excited about it. Maybe it's passion that is driving our instant gratification. But every single time this happens, I feel like we always learn that we should have taken a breath in the beginning.
That's exactly our conversation with Ted, remember? Like, he's all about, especially tech stacks for nonprofits. But I think his overall opinion still vibes with that, is like, you get so entrenched in the feature set. And you get so like amazed at what it could do for you and all the different bells and whistles. But forget that like the people on your team actually still have to use the tool for it to do the things. And like HubSpot, for example, like super powerful.
Super powerful if you buy the whole thing.
Right. And actually use
and
it.
Use
and
it.
Set it up and have all the pieces. But it only works as good as the humans using it. And at this point, within the AI revolution, if you will, like your point, like we still need humans to use it. You know, we still have data input and processes where data is being captured or not being captured. And that's not going away until there's some sort of, you know, telepathy to read your, which I'm sure is coming. To read your salesperson's brain, and they just hook on a little thing. And
that would actually be magical. Can someone please
come up with that? That would make your job so much easier. Because you'd have all the knowledge that they have, but that's not here, and we still need humans to use the tools.
So I feel like I don't want to discourage anyone from going this path. 100%. I want you to keep exploring. I want you to keep going there. But I think what I would probably recommend, if I were in the shoes of someone who was looking to stand up an AI system in their company, while you're exploring systems, like I think it goes back to, you need to either somebody internally or hire a expert to audit your data hygiene. Like just look at what are the data sets that we're hoping to use for this, and what does that look like cleanliness wise. I'd also look at the processes. So if we have an issue of incomplete data, which as we've already noted, this is not an uncommon challenge just within this example. I see this in literally every company that I've ever worked with. So incomplete data happens. I think outside of the data hygiene, it's also really outlining what is our process and what is our expectation of the individuals who are inputting the data. Because if there are gaps in that, now would be the time to start firming that up. And you can even put it in the case of, this is our vision, this is what we're moving toward, but we can't do it without you. And so these are like, this is what we're now being held accountable toward, because by the time you at least like find a system that like, you want to have all that stuff already taken care of. And if you're exploring systems and a part of their onboarding process isn't to help you with those items automatically, I would probably throw a red flag on that 100%. Immediately. So I think the foundations are important, looking at your team processes, are the second thing before you ever even choose a platform.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would think that if I were that platform, I would want to know that information
Mm-hmm.
too, so that I could figure out the best way to help you.
Mm-hmm. I also, this wasn't very clear in the story, but I'm assuming, and before AI gets productized as much, I'm assuming that a lot of this internal spend on AI solutions is custom.
Ooh, maybe.
And so I feel like, to your point, like, maybe you're not necessarily at this point evaluating platforms, maybe you are, but you're also maybe evaluating groups or consultants or
Mhm.
developers to build something for you internally, that's specific and proprietary to you or to your company. That feels like, to me, an even bigger investment
Yeah.
of time to like home grow your
Yeah.
own system or your own tool set or, whatever it is. But yeah, this is definitely not a discouragement. Like, this
Yeah.
is we're here for it. I think it's super powerful. It can be used in so many unprecedented ways, like
Yeah.
how it can maximize efficiency and optimize insights and results and just all the potential. Like, I think it's there and it's not going away. So I definitely don't feel deterred. It's just
Yeah.
take small steps and be thoughtful and careful as you move through it, because it is something that is ever changing, but you want to be like foundationally prepared for, and that's going to take investment too.
Yeah.
So I don't know why that got really serious, but I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
I
I think we're going to see a lot of these things happen a lot more, where companies are going to take a leap. And I mean, again, I think of this like any other tool or system, or, even something as simple as like we've got to completely like overhaul our server room or something like that. I
Mhm.
mean, you would never embark on a challenge like today, you would never embark on a challenge like that without really taking a look at, okay, who are the stakeholders that are involved in
Mhm.
using this every single day? What's the data and the information that,
Mhm.
is being housed here? What are the requirements of the information in order to be housed here? What are the security requirements that we have for, like, you would do all of these checks and balances for a project like that. So why not do that same level of checks and balances for an AI system? Like, to me, it's kind of it's a big misstep by not covering those,
Yeah.
just to leap into it. Now, I'm not opposed to, quick startup solutions if you're wanting to have more of that mindset within your company, just to like do small trials of it. But something as big as this, I think, needed a little bit more time to like think through,
Mhm.
because obviously like what they found on the back end was something that probably could have been remedied pretty quickly.
Yeah, 100%. I just wonder about the server rooms. Like, again, that's physical. So I wonder if it's like you see the money in a room,
Probably.
but with AI, it's a little, everything is in the cloud for the most part now.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like hard to like physically or visually attach that value, which
Yeah.
is weird. And so you're just like, you can't really, our brains, it still is like probably hard to quantify or like, I don't know. You don't just go and look in a room and see all the servers. You're like, this is
Yeah.
hundreds of thousands of dollars. We better be careful as we step through this.
I'd love to talk to a business owner who has either like started to implement an AI system like
Mhm.
this at whatever scale.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be as major as, a company with 50 million in revenue. But something that I wonder though is, typically things that you cannot see tangibly require a lot more decision making time
Mhm.
to make an investment like this. Whereas like servers, like, okay, those are tangible, but I understand the cost of them. I understand the value that they bring to our company. Like, literally, we can't go down without, like, we cannot go down,
Yeah.
right? But if you like, I mean, in the world of brand and marketing and advertising, it's always like, but what can engagement give to us?
Right.
Like, what will this generate lead wise? Because you can't see it. But how is this such an easy conversation to have? How is this such an easy, yes to make? I would love to know
Yeah,
that. Like, I would love to know, like, from a business owner's perspective, like, what is going through your mind when you're like assessing the risk of a $200,000 investment like this, and that versus the outcomes that you have? Like, are you comfortable with knowing that you're probably going to be spending more money through the phased approach if you go about it this way? Are you already like projecting that you're going to be making your money back? Like, what makes this tangible for your company versus maybe some other more elusive things that could really make or break your
ROI
business? And I'm not saying like compare
conversation.
it against marketing. That's just like something that like is top of mind. There's always that argument, and I'm not going to spend that money on, an ad on a what if.
Yeah.
But this is literally a what if too.
Is that an acronym? What's my CAC?
Yeah.
Did I get that one right?
Oh,
All right.
man.
Well, that's a wrap on this episode.
I liked the story time.
Story time. I like understanding things as stories, and I feel like hopefully that's more relatable than us just talking about data and AI and actually bringing that down to like real world scenarios. So I'm sure there will be way more conversation to come about this topic. I don't want to be an AI podcast, but we started as a data podcast, and data is AI. So
you'll hear about it.
You'll hear about it, but that's not all we're going to talk about in 2025. So if you like this, please subscribe. That's the best way that we can, grow this podcast and share with other people. And comment. I think we're on YouTube and all the other places you can get podcasts. So love to have your engagement there, and we'll catch you at the next episode.
This show is part of the ICT Podcast Network. For more information, visit ictpod.net.